हेलो दोस्तों। बिगनर्स पॉइंट में आपका स्वागत है। और अभी हम कर रहे हैं इकोनॉमी। ठीक है। पिछले के चैप्टर नहीं देखे यहाँ तक के तो फिर प्लेलिस्ट बना रखी है, उसमें जाकर देख सकते हैं, एक साथ भी पढ़ सकते हैं। टेबल 8.3 देख रहे थे, सेक्टरल शेयर ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड जीडीपी परसेंट इन 2021। एग्रीकल्चर में 19, कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ जीबीए 8, 24, इंडस्ट्री में 29, 39 और 20, सर्विस 52, 53 और 56 लगभग ये बराबर है। Distribution of workforce India 46, 23, 37, 25, 29, 32, 45, 25 और 38। अब आ जाते हैं इन द नॉर्मल कोर्स ऑफ डेवलपमेंट कंट्रीज फर्स्ट शिफ्ट their employment and output from agriculture to industry and then to services. This is what is happening in China as can be seen from table 8.3 जो अभी देखा. The proportion of workforce engaged in industry in India and Pakistan was low at 25%. The contribution of industries at GDP is at 29% in India and 20% in Pakistan. In these countries, the shift is taking place directly to the service sector. Thus, in all the three countries, the service sector is emerging. Emerging मतलब उभरना as a major player of development. It contributes more to GDP and the same time emerges as a prospective employer. If we look at the proportion of workforce in 1980s, Pakistan was faster in shifting its workforce to service sector than India and China. In the 1980s, India, China, and Pakistan employed 17, 12, and 27% of its workforce in the service sector, respectively. In 2019, it has reached the level of 29, 45, 38% respectively. In the last 5 decades, the growth of agriculture sector, which employs the largest proportion of workforce in all the three countries, has declined. In the industrial sector, China has maintained a near double-digit growth rate in 1980s but began showing decline in recent years. Whereas for India and Pakistan growth rate has declined. In case of service sector, China was able to maintain its rate of growth during 1980 to 1990, while there was a positive and increasing growth of India's service sector output. Thus, China's growth is contributed by the manufacturing and service sectors and India's growth by the service sector. During this period, Pakistan has shown declaration in all three sectors. 8.3 Trend in output growth in different sectors 1980 to 2015. 1980 to 1919 इधर लिखा है, 14 to 18 इधर लिखा है. एग्रीकल्चर में 3.1, इंडस्ट्री 7.4, सर्विस में 6.9, चाइना 5.1, 10.8 और 13.5, पाकिस्तान 4, 7.7, 6.8. एग्रीकल्चर में 3.1, इंडस्ट्री में 6.9, सर्विस में 7.6, चाइना 3.1, 5.3, 7.1, पाकिस्तान 1.7, 4.8 और 5. Indicators of human development. You might have studied about the importance of human development indicators in the lower classes and the position of many developed and developing countries. Let us look how India, China, and Pakistan have performed in some of the select indicators of human development. Look at table 8.5. Some selected indicators of human development 2017 to 19. Human Development Index value 0.644, China 7.788, Pakistan 5.540. Rank based HDI 134, 75 or 164. Life expectancy at birth 67.7, 78.6, 66.7. ये सब आता नहीं है, फिर भी देख लेना. Table 8.5 shows that China is moving ahead of India and Pakistan. This is true for many indicators, income indicators such as GDP per capita or proportion of population below poverty line, or health indicators such as mortality rates, access to sanitation, literacy, life expectancy, or malnourishment. China and Pakistan are ahead of India in reducing proportion of people below the poverty line and also their performance in sanitation. But India and Pakistan have not been able to save women from maternal mortality. In China, for 1 lakh births, only 29 women die, whereas in India, Pakistan, about 133 and 140 women die respectively. Sub- Surprisingly, all the three countries report providing improved drinking water sources for most of its population. China has the smallest share of poor among the three countries. Find out for yourself how these differences occur. In dealing with or making judgments on such questions, however, we should also note a problem while using the human development indicators given above with conviction. This occurs because these are all extremely important indicators, but these are not sufficient. Along with these, we also need what may be called liberty indicators. One such indicator has actually been added as a measure of the extent of democratic participation in social and political decision making, but it has not been given any extra weight. Some obvious liberty indicators, like measures of the extent of constitutional protection given to rights of citizens, the extent of constitutional protection of the independence of the judiciary and the rule of law, have not even been introduced so far. Without including these, and perhaps some more, and giving them overriding importance in the list, the construction of a human development index may be said to be incomplete and its usefulness limited. Development strategies and appraisal. It is common to find developmental strategies of a country as a model to others for lessons and guidance for their own development. It is particularly evident after the introduction of the reform process in different parts of the world. In order to learn from economic performance of our neighboring countries, it is necessary to have an understanding of the roots of their success and failures. It is also necessary to distinguish between and contrast the different phases of their strategies. Through, though countries go through their development phases differently, let us take the initiation of reforms as a point of reference. We know that reforms were initiated in China in 1978, Pakistan in 1988, and India in 1991. Let us briefly assess their achievements and failures in pre and post reform periods. Why did China introduce structural reforms in 1978? China did not have any compulsion to introduce reforms as dictated by the World Bank and in the International Monetary Fund to India and Pakistan. The new leadership at that time in China was not happy with the slow pace of growth and lack of modernization in the Chinese economy under the Maoist rule. They felt that Maoist vision of economic development based on decentralization, self-sufficiency, and shining of foreign technology, goods and capital had failed. Despite extensive land reforms, collectivization, the Great Leap Forward, and other initiatives, the per capita grain output in 1978 was the same as it was in the mid 1950s. It was found that establishment of infrastructure in the areas of education and health, land reforms, long existence of decentralized planning, and existence of small enterprises had helped positively in improving the social and income indicators in the post-reform period. Before the introduction of reforms, there had already been massive extension of basic health services in rural areas. Through the commune system, there was more equitable distribution of food grains. Experts also point out that each reform measure was first implemented at a smaller level and then extended on a massive scale. The experimentation under decentralized government unable to assess the economic, social, and political costs of success or failure. For instance, when reforms were made in agriculture, has pointed out earlier, by handing over plots of land to individuals for cultivation, it brought prosperity to vast number of poor people. It created conditions for the subsequent phenomenal growth in rural industries and built up a strong support base for more reforms. Scholars quote many such examples on how reform measures led to rapid growth in China. Scholars argue that in Pakistan the reform process led to worsening of all the economic indicators. We have seen in an earlier section that compared to 1980s, the growth rate of GDP and its sectoral constituents have not yet improved. Though the data on international poverty line for Pakistan is quite healthy, scholars using the official data of Pakistan indicate rising poverty there. The proportion of poor in 1960s was more than 40%, which declined to 25% in 1980s and started rising again in the recent decades. The reasons for the slowdown of growth and re-emergence of poverty in Pakistan's economy, as scholars put it, our agricultural growth and food supply situation were based not on an institutionalized process of technical change, but on good harvest. When there was a good harvest, the economy was in good condition. When it is was not, the economic indicators showed stagnation or negative trends. You will recall that India had to borrow from the IMF and World Bank to set right its balance of payments crisis. Foreign exchange is an essential component for any country, and it is important to know how it can be earned. If a country is able to build up its foreign exchange earnings by sustainable export of manufactured goods, it need not worry. In Pakistan, most foreign exchange earnings came from remittance from Pakistani workers in the Middle East and the exports of highly volatile agricultural products. There was also growing dependence on foreign loans on the one hand and increasing difficulty in paying back the loans on the other. However, during the last 5 years, Pakistan has recovered its economic growth and has been sustaining. In 2017 to 18, the annual plan 1920 reports that the GDP registered a growth of 5.5%, highest when compared to the previous decade, while agriculture recorded growth rate far from satisfactory level. Industrial and service sectors grow at 4.9 and 6.2% respectively. Many macroeconomics indicators also begin to show stable and positive trends. Conclusion: what are we learning from the developmental experiences of our neighbors? India, China, and Pakistan have traveled 7 decades of developmental path with varied results. Till the late 1970s, all of them were maintaining the same level of low development. The last 3 decades have taken these countries to different levels. India, with democratic institutions, performed moderately, moderately, but a majority of its people still depend on agriculture. India has taken many initiatives to develop the infrastructure and improve the standard of living. Scholars are of the opinion that political instability, over dependence on remittance and foreign aid, along with volatile performance of agriculture sector are the reasons for the slowdown of the Pakistan economy. Yet, last 5 years, many macroeconomic indicators began showing positive and moderate growth rates reflecting the economic recovery. In China, the lack of political freedom and its implications for human rights are major concern. Yet, in the last 4 decades, it used the market system without losing political commitment and succeed in raising the level of growth along with alleviation of poverty. You will also notice that unlike India and Pakistan, which are attempting to privatize their public sector enterprises, China has used the market mechanism to create additional social and economic opportunities. By retaining collective ownership of land and allowing individuals to cultivate lands, China has ensured social security in rural areas. Public intervention in providing social infrastructure even prior to reforms has brought about positive results in human development indicators in China. इसके बाद ये आ जाता है रिकैप। With the unfolding of the globalization process, developing countries are keen to understand the developmental process pursued by their neighbors as they face competition from developed nations as also amongst themselves. India, Pakistan, and China have similar physical endowments but totally different political systems. All the three countries follow the similar planned pattern of development. However, the structure established to implement developmental policies are quite different. Till the early 1980s, the developmental indicators of all the three countries, such as growth rates and sectoral contribution towards national income, were similar. Reforms were introduced in 1978 in China, in 1988 in Pakistan, and in 1991 in India. China introduced structural reforms on its own initiative while they were forced upon India and Pakistan by international agencies. The impact of policy measures were different in these countries. For instance, one child norm has arrested the population growth in China, whereas in India and Pakistan, a major change is yet to take place. Even after 70 years of planned development, majority of the workforce in all the countries depends on agriculture. The dependency is greater in India. Though China has followed the classical development pattern of gradual shift from agriculture to manufacturing and then to services, India and Pakistan's shift has been directly from agriculture to service sector. China's industrial sector has maintained a high growth rate while it is not so in both India and Pakistan. This led to rapid increase of the GDP per capita in China than in India and Pakistan. China is ahead of India and Pakistan on many human development indicators. However, these improvements were attributed not to the reform process but the strategies that China adopted in the pre-reform period. While assessing the developmental indicators, one also has to consider the liberty indicators. और इसी के साथ ये चैप्टर भी हो जाता है हम तुम्हारा समाप्त। अब मिलेंगे अगले चैप्टर में।